Hello, my name is Bekah, and I'm your host for this show called Bekah's Constellation.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Bekah's Constellation. Today I'm here with Kessley, and she's from London, and we're going to talk about her experiences in London and also moving from America to London. Hi, Kessley.
Hey, Bekah. How are you?
Good, thanks. So how was your move from America to London?
So I moved in 2014 in June, and I started school in London that following September. So it worked out really well for me because I was finishing elementary school, starting middle school anyway. So it wasn't really about leaving my friends sort of midway through school. I just sort of started with, I started in the same sort of position as everybody in year 7. Nobody really knew anybody. So we all sort of made friends at the same time. So
Well, that's pretty good timing. And how's your family?
everybody's good. Avery is trialing for a major Premier League football team. Kellen is playing for a local football team. My mum has started working for the Bank of England, and my dad is great.
That's wonderful to hear. How is your life going in school?
School's decent. It's school. I mean, who really wants to be there? But I'm doing A-levels now, so I'm doing 4 subjects. I'm doing English, history, politics, and biology. And my favorite's biology because A, it's the hardest, and B, because we get to look down the microscopes every other week. The other week we were looking at red blood cell smears, which is cool as well. So, yeah.
What grade are you in?
I'm in grade 12, which is sort of 11th grade, so I won't be going to college until next year. Well, not next year, the year after.
So I had taken a trip to London, and I was with Kessley and her family, and I had a wonderful time. What is your favorite thing to do in London?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I like London because I get to explore more and more of it all the time. There's lots of sort of one-off events that you can do literally any weekend you could pick, and there's a number of things you could go and do. But if I had to say my favorite things to do in London, I love Borough Market on the South Bank. It's just fab. There's loads of like little sort of street food vendors. There's this guy who makes the best paella I've ever had. Like, I don't know if you've had like seafood paella, but his actually tastes like really authentic, which is really nice to find in the center of London. And I love going to the South Bank Centre, which is it's like a sort of like an arts sort of, I don't really know what to call it, but they have an art gallery and they get speakers in, so I like to go see like authors speak. I saw Michelle Obama there a couple of years ago. That was really lovely. And then yeah, and there's one restaurant in sort of Chelsea, which is really nice, that my friends and I go to sometimes. So, and my absolute favorite thing to do in London is to see Hamilton. I've seen it 3 times, and I would see it again if I could.
So what's your thoughts about Meghan and Prince Harry?
Oh, see, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I was never really pro Meghan and Harry in the beginning, but I was like, oh well, it's iffy because I do feel like the media has been really unfair to her, and I feel like what you could call the treatment of her in the media as sort of, I wouldn't call it directly racism, but I would say that it's sort of race-based. There was a BuzzFeed article that came out last week actually that was brilliant, and it was comparing headlines of the Duchess of Cambridge, so Kate Middleton, and Meghan Markle. It was comparing the headlines, various headlines from like a bunch of different newspapers. So I think everybody thinks that the tabloid that's really going after her is the Daily Mail, but there's actually a bunch of them that are going after her. But at this point, I think that my biggest issue with the Meghan and Harry sort of debacle lately is that we went from the BBC, which is sort of like the British version of like mainstream news, on the day it happened, I think my issue is that we went from like World War III coverage, Australian bushfires, to let's take a 10-minute break and talk about how Meghan and Harry want to quit their jobs, because apparently this is a really big deal in the grand scheme of things. So basically, in summary, I don't really care that they want to quit their jobs. It's more of an issue of A, that they're taxpayer funded, and B, that the media has been covering it so much at the expense of more important issues, such as, Trump and Iran, Australia, and not to mention Brexit, which is the B word, but I'm going to say it. And Brexit is not finished yet, and so why are we talking about it about bigger fish to fry?
So, what are your favorite places to visit in Europe, or a city, or a country, or anything in Europe?
In Europe, I love Paris. Paris will always have a special place in my heart. I love Disneyland Paris specifically, but I think my favorite thing about Disneyland Paris is that it's actually like 2 hours outside of Paris, so it's not really in Paris. But I also love Milan. I went on a girls' trip with my mum a couple of years ago, and it's beautiful, and it just feels very glamorous.
So, you are in school and you're doing activities. What kind of sports do you do?
I actually don't play any sports, but I dance. So I take tap lessons. I'm grade 6 in tap, and I take ballet. And I'm grade 7 in ballet, and I do point as well, which is really fun because point is one of those things that you work at, like the foundations of point, for a really long time before you get to actually, own a pair of point shoes. So actually getting to have point lessons is really rewarding.
What kind of musical instruments do you do?
I play piano. I'm grade 5 in piano, and right at the moment, piano is kind of at a standstill because I've had exams and I'm getting prepped to take the SAT. But when I finish my SAT, I'll probably pick back up with piano lessons.
So this is our last and final question for this segment, and I just want to ask you, how's everything going with school, and are you doing any clubs or anything that you might be running?
So club-wise, extracurriculars, I do a lot of extracurriculars. My lunchtimes are like always busy. I'm chairing Model UN with one of my classmates, and then I'm looking to found what's going to be known as the Olive Moore Society, but as right now it's called the Black People Club. It's going to be our Afro-Caribbean Society. And then I also attend Debating Society, which is where we do sort of parliamentary debating. But the funny thing about our debating is that it is much more orderly than debates that you would in the actual parliament. So I don't know if you've ever seen clips of it. You can find them on YouTube. And in the House of Commons, they just like to scream at each other. And in our debating, it's much more civilized. And I also, did I say Biology Society? We basically get new journal articles in and we talk about them. And then I'm chair of History and Politics Society as well, which is sort of self-explanatory.
Great job, Kessley. We'll be right back.
Operation Wonder Park is a go!
There's nothing more powerful than imagination. But don't just imagine. Use STEM to change the world.
Who's with me?
It's gonna hurt tomorrow.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Welcome back to this segment of Bekah's Constellation. I'm here with Kessley from London. Welcome back.
Hi.
So I know you do activism and other types of stuff in London. What type of projects are you working on or did?
So basically I'm spread out amongst a couple causes. So most recently selling cupcakes for Climate Strike for Change and then donating that on their website. And then I also have worked with the Women's March a couple times. I've attended last year's Bread and Roses protest. Previous to that, it was the Dump Trump protest in response to Trump's visit to the UK. And then prior to that, it was Time's Up, which was kind of one of their most iconic protests, I guess. And then I also do some grassroots work with the youth charity in East London called Youth Charter, and basically they work to keep young people off the streets and out of vulnerable positions by giving them something to do, somewhere to go, and someone to show them, which is sort of leads into their, I forget the name of it, into one of their programs, where they're training young people to actively help them be equipped to help other young people within the communities to sort of create a knock-on effect.
That's really interesting. And what inspired you to start doing activism and helping out in communities?
If I'm really brutally honest here, I have to say 2016 Trump's election, I have to say I woke up on the morning of November 5th and kind of realized, oh, crap, this is not acceptable. And that's what really sort of pushed me into my activism. I started to read a lot. One of my favorite reads was Renietta Lodge's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. It really opened my eyes to the inequalities of, especially in Black Britain, because English people tend to have a sort of attitude toward racism, and especially gun control of, oh, we're not nearly as bad as America. And yes, that's true in response to gun control, but English people are seeing, in Britain, we're currently seeing a rise in knife crime, especially in London. And while the statistics of the people who are dying from knife crime are obviously much lower than the numbers of people dying from gun crime, the sort of general attitude amongst government officials is, oh, well, we don't have mass shootings. And you're right, we're not going to get mass knife crime. That's not going to happen. But what's, I think, the most interesting to me is especially British sort of ideas about race, because they say, oh, we're not like America. Our race problem is not that big. But in reality, Black Britishness is deeply tied to American sort of civil rights. And even though it's not the same sort of, we don't have the same sort of cultural icons like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, there's still been a long sort of fight for equal rights amongst Black Britain. And what I'm seeing now is more people are starting to educate themselves about it. So Renietta Lodge's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race is one of the sort of groundbreaking books that really opened up the conversation. And now we have more books starting to emerge. So I've got a book this last summer called Taking Up Space, that's by two college students who just graduated from Cambridge, who are talking about what it's like to be Black British in a mainly white institution. And then we've got, I'm currently reading Emma Diaby's Don't Touch My Hair, which is actually set to come out in the US in the next year or so. But basically that's all about, obviously, Black hair in Britain. So I would have to say that basically it's tied down to Trump and the fact that I sort of woke up and realized this isn't cool and this isn't acceptable, and what can I do to change the world for the better, because this is the world I'm eventually going to have to, I'm a member of the society, and eventually this is going to be where my children grow up, and this is not what I want.
What was the culture shock when you had moved?
British people are very much to themselves. They're very quiet. Nobody's going to tell you if they don't like you. And Americans are much more forward when it comes to that. British people talk very quietly. And apparently in Britain, if you talk loudly, it means you're poor. But that's not true. That's at all. But yeah. And also, people don't drink nearly as much tea as you like to think they do. I lived in Britain for 5 years, and granted, at school, we do have 2 kettles and a hot tap for tea, specifically, but people don't drink that much tea. Like, not nearly as much tea as you think they do. But, and granted, we do have stores on, I want to say Oxford Circus, which is sort of like the 5th Avenue of London, that are literally only for tea. They have like 200 different kinds of tea. But like, which is kind of contradictory to we don't drink it as much as you think we do, but it's true. British people don't drink nearly as much tea as Americans like to think. But they do drink a lot of it. But maybe that's because I live in London. Because basically, you take one step outside of London, and everybody's like quintessentially British. But in London, it's a bit more younger.
Do you like tea?
Yes and no. I have to be in the space of mind to have it. I tend to be more of a coffee person in general. But I will drink peppermint tea. It helps me focus.
Which food do you like better, American or English food?
American food all the way. English food, though it is growing on me these days. English food consists of, I think what they call them on Twitter is baked beans for breakfast. Twitter is what British people are referred to on Twitter. And it's true, British people like to eat baked beans for breakfast. And I can't say I haven't tried it. It's not that bad, but it depends on who you ask. Because my brother will eat a full English breakfast any day of the week. And then my dad just thinks the whole concept is disgusting. So, but I'd also say that British like food is made up a lot of it's made up a lot of sort of potatoes, number one. Everything is made of potatoes. There are like 200 different ways to have potatoes in this country. And also it's a lot of more diverse foods than we like to think it is. So yeah, there are like your typical sort of like bangers and mash, which is sausage and mash, potatoes and gravy. But then it's also like a lot of different cultures are blended into what makes up British food. So like curry is a big thing here as well.
So do you have any advice for anybody who might be going to London or anywhere in Europe?
If you're going to London, I'd say dress warmly and bring an umbrella because it rains every day.
I wish I know that more than when I first went, but
Granted, so you just sort of came at the right time, but it's always raining. It's been raining all week, literally.
Well, I guess that's kind of expected. Anyways, what other activism projects have you been working on?
I'm currently working on founding a Afro-Caribbean society at school, which is going to be called the Olive Moore Society. And basically my aim is to sort of draw upon lots of different subject areas and sort of create a sort of celebration of Afro and Caribbean history, which I feel like our curriculum personally at schools tends to talk about slavery and civil rights movement as what Black history is. And Black history is so much more than struggle and so much more than sort of fighting for human rights. And there's a lot of celebration in Black history. There's a lot of beauty in Black history. And being Black is a hell of a lot of fun. And I feel like we needed a celebration of that. So we're going to be reading lots of different excerpts from different books. I've got a load of different books that we're going to read. We're sort of starting out as a book club and then we're going to branch off. But it's really to facilitate healthy discussion about race and culture, which I don't really feel like we have at Bromley High.
Would you want to take something like this to college?
Absolutely, but I do feel like by the time I get to college, somebody else has already done it. It's more of I think we're playing catch up at Bromley High in the fact that we don't have it. I have a friend who's come from a local school, and she basically turned up and was like, you guys don't celebrate Black History Month very well. And we're like, yeah, we don't. And so it's sort of my aim that by the time I leave Bromley High, this is what I want to leave behind. I want to leave sort of some sort of legacy that's linked to all parts of my identity and where we can celebrate Black history. And for the next, year sevens who are coming in, who, want to celebrate their Black history.
Would you want to go to college in America or in Europe?
I'm looking exclusively in America at the moment. So I'm taking my SAT in March, and that has been stressful, but it'll be done soon enough, so.
Thanks, Kessley. We'll be right back with Bekah's Constellation.
This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans, because love has no labels.
Welcome to the last and final segment of Bekah's Constellation. Today I am here with Nicole Etchie and Michelle Etchie, and we're going to be making pumpkin mousse. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so first, going to put in the Jello.
Okay.
You gotta like rip it open,
Yeah, right here.
and like pour it into the bowl. Yep, like that.
Okay.
All of it. You want to put all of it. And then you get 2 cups of milk, and you slowly pour it in while whisking it together. So how's school going?
It's good. Right.
Yeah. What languages do you take?
Italian and French.
French and Spanish.
It's going to take Latin and Mandarin, so we get a broad variety of languages.
Yeah.
And then we add vanilla extract. A relatively good amount of it. About like a tablespoon or so. And then you whisk it up. And then next, we have pumpkin, pumpkin puree. There's a bunch of different places where you can get this. And so I'll hold this while Michelle puts it in with. You gonna hold it, or do you want to put it in? No, I'll hold it. Just put it in there. Can you hold this?
Yeah, sure.
Pumpkin.
You do this yourself? You make this yourself?
Yep. We make this for like family gatherings and stuff. And a lot of times, either I do it or my mom does it or both do it. Okay. And then here you would whisk it in, but Nicole will whisk it in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you gotta whisk it a lot for it to so there's no more lumps. And so we would usually use an electric mixer, but yeah, different situations. And so I know you guys have family in London.
Yeah. Our mom's side of the family, her sisters, and their children. Yeah. That good?
How often have you ever visited them?
The last time we visited them, we were 4.
But we saw them last year in California.
Okay. So I'm gonna put that in. So Michelle, you can use the same spoon for the pumpkin, and just put in the whipped cream. It's usually in a tub for this. It takes about 1 tub, and we use 1 can of pumpkin. Just put it all in.
Oh gosh.
And I'll whisk this up. You guys are.
It's so chunky.
Yeah, but it comes out very smooth. I know. You wouldn't have guessed.
Okay.
Then with the whipped cream, it makes it really, really smooth. And so it starts turning a little bit lighter because white plus dark orange makes light orange, right? So then, if you have, I would recommend using a mixer, or you can use it by hand, as I did for many years. And you try to like mix it all in. And it takes a little bit of time because you want to try to get all the clumps out that might have still been in there from the pumpkin, because the pumpkin is pretty chunky, as you guys have been saying.
Yeah.
And you just continuously just mix it up, and it's looking pretty good. As you can see, it's kind of, well, you can't really see it that well on camera, but it's pretty smooth, and it's like pretty liquidy. And it's you would, after this, you would probably put some cinnamon in, and you would put it in the fridge for about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, or overnight if you want. And then we sprinkle the cinnamon. So then you would probably use a little bit less, but anyways, you kind of go above and beyond. Then you would leave it like that, or you could mix it in.
Wow.
And it looks really like something. Got yourself some cinnamon and pumpkin mousse. Now we're gonna pour it into the pie crust. So it looks kind of like a pie, but it's mousse. And we're gonna pour it into a couple little ones so we can try it. A little different than you would have expected.
Yeah.
For a taste.
That's good.
And then we're gonna put it into the pie crust.
Do you want me to empty it?
Yeah. So can you use the spoon and just
This one? That
this
one.
one? You can also use smaller graham cracker crusts. You just want to use the really big one because it looks pretty cool. You want to try to get like all of it out. There's a lot of it. This is just like there's a bunch of different variations of it, but this is the one that we do. If some of it might not be mixed up as well in the bottom, so you would just stir it a little bit, and then you would add the final bit of cinnamon. Yes, there's a lot of cinnamon. And you just sprinkle right on. Then you could add whipped cream if you want. So this is how it looks when it's like finally done, but like you will put it in the fridge for about 2 to 3 hours roughly, and you come out with some pumpkin mousse. Thanks guys. What did you guys think of it?
I think it was very good.
I loved it.
Great to hear. So thanks for coming on the show, and this is the end of the episode of Bekah's Constellation. See you soon.
I see the future is really bright for me. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.